Well, hello, stargazers. This is your August 2025 horoscope. And the price of admission for this month's quickie horoscope is going to be listening to me for a few seconds, speaking things that are not specifically astrology related. So, you should know, and I would really be concerned about you if you weren't also having the same feelings. I'm struggling a lot these days with everything. This is not academic. This is not happening to other people. We've got a real problem on our hands. And I really feel like, and I don't believe in demons and devils, but I really feel like the demons are at play and have been for a while, and now they're just running amok. So in the 2016 administration, we had literally dozens and documented. We had videos of these migrant or immigrant children that were all housed together in these detention facilities. There was a whole bunch in New York that got put on a bus and taken away, and nobody ever saw them again. That is so incredibly distressing to me, and it's happening again because apparently there are literally hundreds of immigrant children that have been ripped out of their parents' arms or what have you, right? And even children, in the case of toddlers being deported, we don't know where they are. They're just gone. They're just gone. And this is at the same time that in Palestine, they have been actively starving and murdering children. Actively. And this is on top of the attack on women's rights and the ability for women to have autonomy and control over major life decisions and also the health and well-being of their bodies through restriction and restricted access or complete denial of access to birth control and abortion services by, creepy, greasy old men who think that they are the chosen ones, deigned by God to make rules for the rest of it. I'm done. I'm so done. So I've been struggling trying to do the August horoscopes, not because, I can't do the horoscopes, but because I can't pretend. I'm having trouble pretending that everything's okay because it's not. And we all need to stop acting like if we just close our eyes and take 5 minutes out for ourselves and pretend that it's not happening, that it'll go away. It will not. We are literally up to our noses in the devil's work, if you believe in the devil. Okay? And it's these wackadoodle religious people who would absolutely convince you that the devil at play is everybody else but them. Nobody. This is you and your patriarchal religion. Anyway, and also too, the United States here, we've become the party of the Republicans have become the party of pedophile protectors. Don't you ever forget that. And the first person that makes some kind of BS excuse, but she looks like a grown woman. How can you tell? Blah, blah, blah. Listen, buddy, got news for you. You know how you can tell? Do you know why grown women aren't sleeping with 16-year-old boys? And we can tell the difference. We don't care how old it looks. You know how you tell? Because you talk to them. You listen to them. All they've got to do is open their mouth. They're like, whoa, how old are you again? I don't care how mature somebody looks. When they start talking, if you're actually listening, because you're trying to get to know them as a whole person, not a body part, you're going to know this is clearly a child. So don't let anybody give you this BS about, looks like a grown woman. No, buddy, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. So all these people protecting the Republican Party right now, who are in turn protecting Trump and withholding the Epstein files and all this nonsense, right? Who are they really protecting? They're not protecting the kids. They've never been protecting kids. They've got immigrant children being sent off to God knows where for all we know. They're in snuff films somewhere, right? Or, being enslaved by pedophiles in other countries. We don't know. Nobody knows where these kids went. They just know that we snatched them up and sent them away, right? That we're starving children in Gaza. We are aiding and abetting the starvation and murder of children in Palestine. And now we have an entire group of people who've adopted the label of the Republican Party or Republicans, right? This is a self-applied sticky label. They've given themselves this label, and literally they are protecting pedophiles as we speak because of the Epstein files, which, by the way, came up right about the time we saw Trump's chart getting hit. And I said, whatever's coming up, he's not getting out of this. Apparently, this was the vehicle. Okay, so with all of that said, now let's get into August. Now, one of the other things that's happening is Ghislaine Maxwell has managed to talk herself into a cushy camp prison in Texas and moved her out of Florida. So the thing with this prison, I'm going to let you look it up, is it basically, it is so low security, so minimal security. It's basically for white collar criminals, who commit fraud and things of that nature. Not for sexual predators, not for violent offenders, not for actual like serious dangerous criminals in the physical sense. It's for, the we don't get our hands dirty crew. And it is so minimal security. There's apparently a decorative fence around the perimeter that you could walk over. There's very little oversight, blah, blah, blah. And remember, she's got tons of money, tons of contacts, right? And she disappeared for months after the Epstein trials, right? Literally, the FBI couldn't find her, okay, for months. And now she's going to be in a minimum security prison where literally all she has to do is walk out the gate, walk over the fence, and disappear into the car of someone who's going to help her, into the private jet of somebody else who's going to fly her out of the country, with fake passports they've probably provided for her, and fly her off to God knows where there's no extradition and she can live on her money. And that sexual predator, not victim, is going to roam free. And what that does is it's going to alleviate the Trump administration for being responsible for giving her a pardon, an official pardon. And she'll get her freedom. And she's going to get her freedom because they basically put her in a situation where literally they're just going to turn a blind eye and let her wander off into the great big wide world where no one will ever see her again. That's what they're up to. And watch and let's see if this goes down around August 7th. This might be what it is. Okay. All right. So with that said, watch August 7th. That's a big hot spot in the month. Now, also what's happening this month is Mercury will be going direct around the 12th. So just a couple days around that August 7th date we're looking at. So all that's doing is it's adding more potency to that August 7th date. Now, the thing about it is with Mercury going direct, it will, at the same time it goes direct, be opposing Pluto. Not fun. So big stuff is afoot at this time. At the same time that Mercury and Pluto are together, Mercury stations direct opposing Pluto, okay, Mars will also have changed signs. It will be in Libra. But around the 12th, when Mercury goes direct, Mars will be setting up a square or continuing a square with Saturn and Neptune. So the lies and delusions and the fantasies are real. Okay, there's a whole lot going on around this 7th to 12th. That's not good. It's a whole lot of lying, a whole lot more than usual, right? Which, if you live in the United States, that's pretty impressive because literally the president just fired somebody who's in charge of providing accurate data about jobs because they gave accurate data. And clearly we're losing jobs, not creating jobs. And he got so pissed off that somebody told the truth, he fired the woman. So the gaslighting is real. So for this to be even bigger than what we're dealing with right now is pretty huge. So it'll be interesting to see what this is. Now, here's what I want you guys to know in August moving forward, right? So the first thing is Uranus is in Gemini. Uranus has moved in Gemini. It's been in Gemini about a month or so now. So the thing about it is, Gemini typically has to do with copies, duplicates, multiples, right? The sleight of hand magician tricks, double talk, talking on both sides of your mouth, hypocrites, liars, people who like to bend and twist the truth to suit themselves, right? The wordsmith, the play on words. So that's typically what we associate with Gemini. A lot of people in Congress have very strong Mercury and Gemini in their charts, by the way. Now, Uranus, on the other hand, has entered Gemini. So this could easily indicate big developments in things that have to do with AI, the deep fakes, AI, something into artificial intelligence, and more spin, right? More crazy making spin. But here's the thing I want you guys to consider. Gemini has a lot to do with duplicity and lies, and doublespeak, right? Telling half-truths, manicuring the truth. Uranus, on the other hand, is the giant stress test. So Uranus is big on honesty, the inconvenient truth, which you wouldn't know to look at Trump because he's clearly all about the convenient truth, at any given time. But he's got a Mercury and Neptune square in his chart that rules the chart. So that's where that's coming from, even though he has a Sun-Uranus conjunction. Uranus also rules stress tests. Wherever Uranus shows up, at the party, in the chart, at an event, at a mundane chart, whatever it is, wherever Uranus shows up, it is a class act stress test. Consummate, unparalleled. And as an example, I would give you Uranus. Trump has a Sun-Uranus conjunction. It's part of a full moon eclipse birth chart, right? Well, guess what he's been since he's made himself or hoisted himself upon us as our president, right? He's been one giant stress test for the country, for democracy, for our Constitution, for the laws we abide by, what we're willing to believe, for our value systems. He is literally a walking, talking, rolling stress test for the rest of us. Because he has forced the situations that has made us look and examine and get really honest about what's actually going on, right? So we all know more now about the workings and the handles and levers of Congress and everything else, the insider trading of the senators and all this sort of stuff. We know more now than we ever did. More of us know more now than we ever did. With Uranus and Gemini, as we move forward, we're going to see a lot more of this. There's no hiding at this point, right? So for those of you who are really good at, playing games, you probably shouldn't be on my channel, but for those of you who are really good at playing games and manicuring truth, and, your whole stock and trade has been, a little half truth here, a little manicured truth there. Well, we just won't tell them that part. You're screwed because Uranus and Gemini will not let anybody off the hook in terms of transparency, accountability, and the truth. So the truth is not only going to be out there, it's going to be in your face. Okay? So for those of you who bankroll on half-truths, you've got some really uncomfortable times ahead of you that will not end for, what is the transit of Uranus? 84 years, for a lifetime, honey, for a lifetime. So get used to telling the truth and being accountable, for what you've said and done. So with Uranus and Gemini, what we can expect is a lot more of this. So pay attention. And try to avoid the traps of being clever and following conspiracy theories just to sound clever. Because conspiracy theories are designed for audiences of extremely gullible, suspicious people and of limited intellect or researching motivation. So they'll string just enough things together to make a really good story, and that's it. They've got their conspiracy. They know everything. But the reality is they don't understand enough to be able to explain what's going on. Hence, they just look clever, but if you dig a little bit and start doing your research and looking for how this actually puts together, you'll see giant holes in the connections that they've made, which makes them look stupid. But that's a lot of work. We don't have time for that, especially these days. But I'm just saying, if it sounds like a conspiracy theory, and if this is somebody who clearly latches on to conspiracies, as opposed to actually taking some time and trying to understand the mechanics of a situation, this may not be something worth investing your time into. But ultimately, with Uranus and Gemini, the truth is coming out. So it doesn't matter, and it will happen fast. That's the other thing you got to know about Uranus and Gemini. Things are going to move at the speed of lightning, right? Now you see it, now you don't, bang, big bang, boom, right? Oh my God. So fasten your seatbelts. We got 84 years of this. So, truth is a lot easier to remember than lies. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, with that said, also too, Jupiter is in Cancer for about a year and a half more now, right? So Jupiter and Cancer is an interesting combination. So on the one hand, Cancer is a contracting sign. Cancer is very self-protective. It likes to keep things close to itself. Home, hearth, family. It doesn't like outsiders. It wants everybody out. It wants that safe, protected shell or bubble around it. And it's very tribe-focused, right? Cancer and Capricorn are very tribe-focused. So you're looking for people who prescribe to hardcore racial superiority ideologies, really from the cradle. This is how they started. This is what you're looking for, a strong Cancer and Capricorn, because they see the world in a contracted sense, and they see protection as a means of self-protection, which means that only if you look like you be my family member are you okay. Now, so Cancer contracts, right? Jupiter expands. Jupiter is the exact opposite. Jupiter wants to know what's over there, right? Oh, you don't look anything like it. Things that I already know. What are you about? Jupiter wants to expand and move out past those horizons and see what else is out there. This is the exact opposite of Cancer. So you have Cancer contracting and Jupiter expanding, and they're together now, right? Which is kind of an awkward place for it to be. So one of the things that we may see is literally exactly both. So we may be seeing people who are actively trying to contract the world around them, right? Hence, just as an example, here in the United States, in Ozark Mountains in Arkansas. There's literally people who are trying to build a whites-only community. Which, listen, I got news for somebody. We're not upset about this. By all means, y'all can have your own communities. Please clearly label the geographic perimeters around that property so we don't go there, because we would actually like to avoid you at all costs. We want nothing to do with you either. So please, by all means, condense, contract, let us know where you are, and we will know to leave you alone. But this is new, right? So, because the, desegregation and all this sort of stuff was not, and civil rights was not that long ago. It was only in the 1960s. And it was a hard fight to get there when we got there, right? But we've gotten comfortable and complacent. And, racists, just don't die. They've got nothing else to live for. So I guess the racism is all they have. So they've been lurking around, whispering, and literally being pissed off that they can't make all their damn racial jokes and everything else. Oh my God, this PC crap. And the minute Trump came on board, he basically gave them permission to be the racist a-holes they've always been and make all those stupid offensive jokes and be as offensive and feel like they can say whatever they want to anybody else all over again. Hence, that's why Trump's very popular with this specific population. So, Jupiter in Cancer, we're going to see a lot of that. People condensing and trying to contract and bring the world in around them. I'm good with it. Y'all can go live in your own little whites-only pseudo-Amish communities. Just go away. Just please go away and stay away. On the other hand, at the same time, Jupiter in Cancer will also, and here's the beautiful part for those of you who are like me and love color. I see color all the time and I love it. I love it. What Jupiter in Cancer will do is it will create the evolutionary demand that we expand our tribe. Okay? So the instinct is to draw in and draw close and only associate with people like they could be family members. But Jupiter in Cancer is requiring, if you want to successfully navigate this, for us to expand our tribe beyond the superficial appearances. So remember what I mentioned in the last video talking about ants and how ants will form little ant bridges with their bodies to cross great bodies of water, or apparently even just space, giant gaps of space where there's nothing. They will make literally little ant bridges in the air so that the rest of the colony can cross over, right? Fascinating stuff. Look it up. I'll put a link below. Good stuff. So essentially, this is kind of where we're at. In order for us to get from here to there on the evolutionary timeline, we've got to be those ants. We have to expand our bridge. We have to join together. We have to cooperate. And we have to build those bridges between two completely separate, almost seemingly impassable things, which at this point, the impassable thing is the reality we're dealing with now and the future we need to be at. So expand your tribe. Expand your tribe. And based on things that matter, right? Character, integrity, accountability, kindness, the things that you would absolutely instill in your children. You would want your children to have these qualities, and you would remind them often that these are the things they should have: character, integrity, accountability, kindness. Okay? Honesty too, but honesty is part of character. Those are the things we should be looking at for other people in terms of making connections and networking and expanding our horizons. So don't be afraid to reach out and do something completely different. Because the only way we're going to get through this is together, right? Let the little minions that want to contract the world around them go. Let them have their own little social islands. Please, by all means, go inbreed with yourselves, because after 3 or 4 generations, we'll be seeing your kids at the children's hospital too. Because like the banjo from the movie Deliverance, there's only so much racial purity you can do before you're inbreeding again, right? And with you guys, we're talking 3 or 4 generations. So we'll see in the children's hospital. Anyway, I know. So if you've been feeling like you really want to scream from the top of your lungs often, or just put your head in a bowl of cold ice cubes and water and scream until your voice is hoarse, I'm right there with you, baby. I'm right there with you. So we're going to have to get through August as best we can. It's not going to be great. But the first 2 weeks, up until the 12th, this is showtime, baby. It's showtime. So it will be interesting to see what happens. The most important thing for you guys to do is to pay attention and expand your tribe. And also remember, the orange man, for everything that he is and is not, the reality is he couldn't be where he is and he couldn't do what he does without enablers and supporters. So every single Republican senator who is deliberately obstructing the release of the Epstein files is literally protecting pedophiles. You think about that for a second. Every single rep in the House that's putting these stupid bills up and passing them through, because they're afraid of him. They're afraid of the great, dumpy pants. They're in it for the money. They're in for the money. Their donors are pushing them to approve these things. Their donors, their political financial donors benefit from this. So they're just as bad. So you make sure you know who these people are and you learn how to call them and let them know, I see what you're doing. I'm not okay with this and I will remember this. And if that's all you have to say, then say that. Because as long as they think you're not paying attention, they're going to do whatever they want. And whatever they want to do has nothing to do with protecting you and your kids, in case you haven't figured that out by now. Okay? All right. So that is it for the month. Now, we do have a full moon around the 9th. I'm telling you, the week up until the 12th is a big, active, freaking week. Top of the showdown at the OK Corral. Now, we will have a new moon down around the 23rd. So by the time we get to the 23rd, we will have a new moon, which means that some of the heat is off and we're on the new cycles of events and things of that nature. At the same time, Venus will have been around Jupiter and leaving. So we will have that week from right around the 12th, as soon as we get all of this explosion done. From the 12th to the 22nd, we may be able to breathe a sigh of relief, but the more important thing is that with Venus and Jupiter together in Cancer, what this is going to give us is, let me just make sure I'm not missing an aspect. What this is going to give us is, for those people who are capable of feeling empathy and kindness and compassion, we're going to get a breather. We're going to get a breather. So there are blessings that will be bestowed upon us around this time, but we got to get through the 12th first. Okay, and sometimes those blessings are blessings in disguise. So don't necessarily expect a giant big bag of money to fall in your lap, although it could happen. But certainly expect answers to questions, freedom from old chains and the bondage of illusion and fantasy. And finally, the ability to see what the hell you're dealing with and how best to move forward. So it's for those of you who've been involved in domestic abuse relationships, you'll understand what I'm talking about. For those of you who've never had this experience, you're going to have to kind of work with me here, right? So the thing about it is, in a domestic, and honestly, this administration feels like we're in a domestic abuse relationship. When you're in a domestic abuse relationship, the hardest part of leaving, okay, is not the physical, right? And people often say, well, why don't you just leave? It's not that simple, because the prison, the real chains, are in here. Abusers know that. Abusers look for people who have weak links in their chain and their safety nets so that they can get in and they can keep clipping all those little chains that typically keep the boundary between you and unhealthy people, all right? So they want to dismantle your defenses, and they do it because all your defenses are up here. So once they know they've got you mentally, then physically it's a detail. Like beating a crap out of you and breaking bones, that's nothing. That's nothing. It was a long time up to that point before they put hands on you, because the real abuse and the real control of you started here. And once they got you to the point where you couldn't see clearly anymore, you couldn't think clearly anymore, like you were literally like constantly feeling like you're going crazy, because they want you to think that, right? And you're constantly second guessing yourself and, oh my God, I don't understand it. And of course the problem is people outside of the relationship have no idea what's going on, and they just figured this is a you problem. So you're getting even less support, okay? That's when they start putting hands on you. And this is kind of where we're at, right? So understand that once we get past the 12th, there will be that moment of clarity where we can breathe, take a breath, and we can see clearly and hear things properly, and we can think finally with a clear head, even if it's for a moment. So use this time between the 12th and I think it's the 18th. Yeah, like the 18th, all the way down when Venus leaves, right, the 24th. So use that time when you have those moments of clarity to understand that you're having a tremendously powerful, liberating, and empowering moment of clarity So take yourself seriously. Stop second guessing yourself. Really pay attention to what you're seeing and feeling and thinking and starting to put the puzzle pieces together. Because that's the secret. The blessing in disguise is hidden in those secrets in you. It all starts up here. All right, because we don't have to stay in a relationship with an abuser. We don't. And there are people who could say, well, if you're staying in a relationship with an abuser, it's clearly a choice. Maybe, but when we talk about choice, let's talk about choice with children. People who are too young to have any life experience. Do they really have choice? If somebody's drunk and gives consent, they're drunk. They're not in their good mind, right? Making reasonable decisions. Are they really making a good choice? Is that a proper choice we can actually say, oh no, they chose this, right? If somebody is suicidally depressed, and they jump in front of a train, we could say that was their choice, but they were not in a place where they were able to make good decisions for themselves. So is that really a choice? I mean, other than the technical definition of choice? So when it comes to being in abusive relationships, whether it's with a person or your government, okay, it's not just about if you stay, it's because you choose to be there, right? That's the easy way out for other people to say, I'm not helping. I got nothing involved. I got no dog in this race. You're on your own. That's literally what that is. It's your choice. I can't help you. The reality is, sure, it's a choice, but also too, sometimes it's because we're not in our right mind. We're not making good choices. We're incapable of making good choices at that moment, or many moments. This week after the 12th, right, taking us through almost to the end of the month, we're going to get a break in the sky, and we're going to be able to think clearly again and breathe for a moment and know our right mind again. So use that time wisely to make better decisions for yourself. All right? And that's it. I'm going to go because kids missing. Bye.